Welcome to the news, the Ignition News.
That's fun.
We're not Democratic news. We're not Republican news. We're not independent news. We're the Ignition News.
I never play this one. I never play this intro.
For the truth in American media today, a time when it's needed the most. So sit back,
I'm gonna have to
grab a
switch
seat,
this
and
up.
listen to the news. But it's not just enough to listen to the live show. You got to follow along
What a
on your
bop.
favorite podcasting platform.
I forgot I made
Join
this.
us over on Spotify, our chief
What a bop.
destination, or find us on YouTube Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, or on Substack. Thanks for tuning into the Ignition. Let's ignite.
Very
Now,
cool.
let's get busy with the truth.
Very cool. I love that. I forgot I made that. That's a far superior intro. That's a much better introduction. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. It's so great to be here. There's a lot to talk about. We had a live show yesterday, obviously covering Pam Bondi's firing. Not a surprise, obviously. I was pretty happy with that show. It was not as objective oriented as a typical show is here on the Ignition News. So welcome in. If you're new to the show, we are a daily news show, and we stream live on all kinds of places, TikTok, Instagram, Substack, Spotify, YouTube. I'd like to stream on Rumble, but it gets really messy, and I wouldn't subject anyone to being a moderator on Rumble because it's rough. It's rough over there. I mean, if you like an adventure and you want to be a moderator over at Rumble, let me know. Send me a direct message. Put a comment on Spotify, whatever works for you. Speaking of, I do want to just recognize some of the comments we've received lately. So I promise I would read some of them. So before we get into the show, from over on Spotify, we've got Happy Liberation Day, everyone. My wallet has indeed been liberated of cash. Someone else says, thank you for the news and action instructions. You're very welcome. Someone says, oh my gosh, I'm not always quick to see changes in society. You're spot on. I've not seen a homeless person in my area of Minneapolis for a couple of months. That was from a couple of shows ago. Very important conversation. Good morning, everyone. Let's get into it. What are some things that happen on March 3rd? Is it March? April. Jeez, it's April already. What are some things that happen on April 3rd? Well, in 1860, the Pony Express began its first mail delivery service. I'm a huge fan of the Postal Service. Never going to hear me talking shit about the post office, even though I do not like, what's his name? Louis DeJoy. Or is it Robert DeJoy? I don't know. DeJoy. Let's see. 1948, President Harry Truman signs the Marshall Plan into law, authorizing billions of aid for post-war construction in Western Europe. And I guess we just decided to throw that all away. In 1973, Martin Cooper made the first handheld cellular telephone call from a sidewalk in New York City to a rival at Bell Labs. That is amazing. That is a huge dig. I love that. It's like, hey, I'm calling you on a cell phone. That's what I'm calling it. Yeah. It's because I'm going to sell a lot of them and you're fucking late and I win. Does anyone remember when cell phones, you had them, they were analog phones, and you'd be talking to someone on a cell phone and like someone else's conversation would blur into your conversation? Am I so old that people don't remember that? Like you'd be talking on the cell phone and like someone would cross over into your conversation. It was like, oh wow, this feels wildly inappropriate. This can happen. Like, you know, and now of course, obviously the government just listens to everything we say. So I guess it was just priming us for a different time. From a pure technical perspective, when that happened, the reason that happened, this is such a capitalism thing. The reason that happened is because as cell phones gained traction so rapidly, they had to split open the bandwidth so that more people could get on the network. I used to work at a cell phone company, so I know this. And so what would happen is they would have to, instead of having people, they would have to do that. And so the conversations would cross over. And that's why someone would hear you talking about what you need to get at Albertsons. It's National Tweed Day, National Chocolate Mousse Day, and National Walk to Work Day. It's also World Party Day, and Marlon Brando was born today. So was Jane Goodall. And let's see who Eddie Murphy was born today. I am reading a book right now on anti-gravity. It's impossible to put down. Oh, that's not a bad one. That's not a bad joke. I used to also be a baker, but unfortunately I had to quit because I could not make enough dough. Also not bad. That was not a bad joke. Let's get into the news, everyone. I've got a few stories for you. I'm incredibly behind schedule today, so you'll be able to watch me get visibly more stressed out as we continue the show. Good morning. We have a lot of breaking news, and I just want to talk a little bit about, am I going to do the commentary first? We'll see. No, let's go ahead and get into it. So breaking news right now, actually, is that we have learned that Justice Samuel Alito was taken to the hospital last month in what was a previously undisclosed incident. So it's kind of interesting how even the Supreme Court, I mean, at all levels of the government, transparency is just not a thing. We're seeing an increasing inward flow and restriction of information. This is, of course, what happens in authoritarian governments. You find out less and less about the truth of what is happening with your government. When a Supreme Court justice is ill enough to be taken to the hospital in emergency, that's a serious thing that we need to know about right away. And of course, in other very serious news this morning, of course, you remember that this very week, the president essentially said that the war in Iran was winding down, that their military had, quote, been completely destroyed. And unfortunately, today we have learned that an F-15E was shot down. This is the second aircraft that has been struck over Iranian skies, but an F-15E shot down, completely destroyed. The plane was. Iranian officials have released photographs of the completely destroyed airframe with the ejection seats. What we know as of the time of this reporting right now is that the United States has recovered one of the crew members from the fighter jet, and the other one, they are still searching for that person. But the reality is, I know this is probably not a popular thing to say, but neither of those two pilots need to be there. We do not need to be engaged in this combat in Iran on behalf of Israel. We do not need to be in this region. There is no point to it. There is no purpose to it. It's costing us $1 billion a day. Every aircraft that goes down. That fighter jet, between $30 million and $100 million, obviously, to replace that, let alone the enormous toll on the family members for that fighter pilot. Simply doing their best to serve this country. They're obviously fighting on our behalf, fighting in our name in a war that the vast majority of Americans don't want them to be in. Something like 70% of Americans disapprove of that. Only 8% of Americans approve of putting troops on the ground. And this is exactly the reason that people do not approve putting troops on the ground. Those two pilots, no family should have to worry about something like that. No family should have to worry about what a foreign government would do to members of the armed forces working on our behalf. But one of the ways that we can solve that is by not being there and by, removing ourselves from the conflict. I know it's an uncomfortable thing to say. Those pilots didn't choose their orders. They were operating on missions that they were ordered to be on. And I really hope that we find that other pilot. That is my hope. And I'm sure the hope of everyone here who follows us on the show. But this is where we are. Iran's state broadcast put out a call today to all civilians. They were offering a reward to anyone who turns over the pilot. Iranian state media aired footage of the wreckage that it was claiming is that F-15. I will say that they incorrectly described the plane as an F-35. So you have to remember that there's disinformation on both sides of the aisle. But while Iran obviously lied about what kind of plane it was, last night Central Command CENTCOM actually lied about the fact that there was a missing plane. So you have Iran is lying, or people say Iran is lying about the plane. Last night CENTCOM was lying about the plane. This is what happens in war: disinformation, misinformation, and this is the actual first confirmed loss of a fixed-wing aircraft while in operation. That's not the first confirmed loss. Obviously, we had the two refueling planes that were damaged severely. The crash of the plane that killed, I think it was 6 service members, and then you had the A3E, or the EWACS that was completely destroyed in Saudi Arabia, leaving us down a significant surveillance mechanism. So, yeah. And this was, of course, the war that the president said that he had won, right? Gas is now $4.09 per gallon nationally. That is 37% higher than it was before the war started. We obviously know that there's huge impacts from drones and missile strikes. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed. And apparently the president's message to the rest of the world was, hey, if you want oil, buy it from us. If you're getting oil from the Strait of Hormuz, go get it. That's literally what he said. That is what he said. Of course, 2 weeks ago, the president said that Iran had been decimated. He said that again in his address to the nation, where he quoted the United States committing war crimes, sending them back to the Stone Age, bombing civilian infrastructure. These are not the actions of the good guys. And I think where we bring this home is simply understanding what happens when you have unqualified people in power. And I would specifically talk about Pete Hegseth. You may remember that very recently, Pete Hegseth said that we would, quote, give no quarter to our enemies, which is also a war crime. No quarter means if you capture someone that you treat them respectfully, you give them housing, food, and you treat them humanely with dignity. Pete Hegseth said, no, we're going to commit a war crime. No quarter for our enemies. Well, here we are. I would ask you the simple question, regardless of what you think of Trump or Hegseth, regardless of what you think about this conflict that we're in, I think you have to think about the families of whoever this F15 crew member was. I hope that they are giving quarter. It's just a basic ask. And perhaps an important reframe for members of the armed services, family members of the armed services. I think there's one group that can put the most pressure on this administration right now. It is the families of veterans, the families of active duty service members, the people on their way right now to Iran. Those people should be the people putting pressure on this administration. But of course, if you've been in the military, you know anyone in the military, that's not how it works. So we have to do that on their behalf. Welcome to the Ignition News, everybody. It's good to be here. I'm really happy that you're here. Our show this weekend, as a reminder, are pre-recorded. So you want to get the news this weekend, you want to go to theignition.news or go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Our next story, obviously, Pam Bondi was fired yesterday. Of course, the official answer for that is the Epstein files. She came to office promising a full release. Do you remember those folders that she had? Here's the Epstein files. And then people walked out of the White House and it was just what had already been released. Of course, 68% of Americans think that the government is covering up actively what happened in the Epstein files. I mean, it couldn't be more obvious. This actually had nothing to do about the Epstein files, though. According to some reporting, what we're learning about Bondi is it wasn't because of the Epstein files. It was because Bondi was not moving fast enough to prosecute the president's enemies. And when she was moving to prosecute the president's enemies, she was failing. These indictments not being secured in court. Who do we know about so far? John Bolton, James Comey, Don Lemon. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And apparently that's the reason that he has had enough. And now, granted, the person who is, at least for the time being, Todd Blanche, replacing Pam Bondi, the president's personal attorney from his New York trial where he was convicted of 34 felonies. Todd Blanche, much more dangerous. Todd Blanche, who sat down with Ghislaine Maxwell. Let me give you a brief overview of how that interview went with Todd and Ghislaine. It's Todd. Hey, hi, Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted criminal, guilty of horrific crimes against children. I am here on this device recording you at this interview, right? Right, I'm here. Thank you. It's good to be here. Yes, good. As of course we previously discussed, you never saw the president doing anything ever, right? Totally cool guy. That's right. The president never did anything. Also, he said I would get a pardon because I totally got hosed. And he's such a good president, and he's really handsome and tall. And I've never officially seen this. I've heard that he's got a rockin' six-pack. That's what I've heard. That's right. That was just a brief synopsis of that interview. Watch me get a warning. That's your new attorney general. That's the person protecting you. But it's interesting, yes? You have Kristi Noem fired, Pam Bondi fired. The first two firings in the Trump administration are women. We know they hate women. We know that. But the first two firings are Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem. I will say, if you go look on my threads, I did correctly predict that first Kristi Noem would be fired and then Pam Bondi would be fired. And I also said they're not getting pardons, which I stand by. So what does this all mean? Well, it means that support for the president is eroding and he can't fire himself out of this. Let's see. Let's take a look at the latest polls. March 26th to March 30th, there was polling here. His approval rating among working class white voters, defined as white adults without college degrees, has flipped. It now stands at 49% approve and 50% disapprove. In February, that number was +8. In January, it was +5. So he has flipped white working class voters, now a majority of whom disapprove of his actions. Among Americans earning under $50,000 per year, it is actually much worse. Approval is 29%. Disapproval is 70%. So have faith, have hope. More and more Americans are waking up to this chaos, this dysfunction. But choose to believe what you see with your own eyes. When I was watching something last night, we started the show. We were talking about Kanye, Ye, whatever you want to call him. At the start of the show, he's doing a show at SoFi Stadium right now. I don't know if any of you have seen this. Here it comes, talking about Ye. I'm going to get in trouble. And that concert honestly looks incredible. I'm not going to lie. That concert looks just absolutely bonkers. He, of course, he had some like mental breakdowns while he was performing. That's a whole separate show we can talk about. He's 48 years old, by the way. Anyways, most of the people that went to that show were just they said they had an absolutely crazy time. The imagery from the show looks incredible, but it reminded me a lot of, have you seen The Matrix? We talked about how it's like the Matrix was released a couple days ago. We talked about the anniversary of The Matrix, but in the last Matrix movie, depending on what you technically consider the last Matrix movie, this is a hot topic. I don't think the one that came out on Netflix can be considered part of the Matrix canon. I think that's sort of like, do you remember the Star Wars Christmas movie? The last Matrix movie that came out on Netflix is literally the Star Wars Matrix movie. So it's the Star Wars Christmas of the Matrix movies, okay? We know it happened. We don't like to talk about it. Every now and then you see a clip of it. It's not part of the canon. Anyway, in the last Matrix movie, before the robots make their man, how interesting, huh? The AI robots really are coming to kill all of us. That's fucking crazy, you know? Wow. Anyways, before they're off to engage in their battle, actually, it's the second Matrix movie. My bad. The night before, they're having this like massive underground dance party rave, and it's just like, you know, and everybody's sweating and dancing, and they're just like, we're going to fight the robots. And something about watching that Kanye concert while this literal planet is like falling apart and we're at an illegal war and the economy is just, everything is just like, I don't fundamentally see any difference between the sort of AI robots sweeping their way through the underground tunnel networks to finish off humanity and the billionaires and their war machines and their class division and the destructive forces of the environmental catastrophes. I didn't really see much difference between the fictional version of humanity dancing in a cave to this amazing trance show that Ye was having as the entire world collapses all over. And it actually isn't that fundamentally different at all, is it? It really is us versus the machine. But unlike the Matrix, it's not just machines which grab power from our bodies. The billionaires have crafted a system that is eerily similar to that. In a separate format today, I posted about a video about this thing called 996, working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. It's the new schedule of Silicon Valley. You're basically, if you want a job in tech right now, you have to commit to a 72-hour work week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. That's the new thing. And they call it 996. China did this. That's where it actually came from. And they banned it. They outlawed the 996 schedule. But Silicon Valley said, hey, hold my kombucha. Let's go. And more people, and so it's spreading like a virus, like a religion, actually, where more and more people are sort of seeing what's ahead of us, and they're sort of saying that, honestly, I can't disagree with this concept that AI is going to so fundamentally disrupt us that you're either going to be financially independent, own your own home, debt-free, that sort of thing, or you're going to be in the permanent working class, the permanent underclass. I said working class very incorrectly. Because if they accomplish what they want to accomplish with artificial intelligence, there really won't be a working class. At least not as we know it right now. There will be fundamental disruption. In 2027, in 2026, I don't know, my phone just did something really weird, spooked me out. That's very creepy. I think it might have connected to the car. Okay. I think it's fair to get a little spooked out. You're talking about AI, all of a sudden your phone starts doing weird shit. That's a fair thing to have happen, okay? Nonetheless, here we are. On the precipice of a revolution that was supposed to make our lives easier. We were supposed to work less. We were supposed to be able to create more art, supposed to be able to enjoy more free time, work less, make more money, have better quality of life. But now the machine is making the art. Do you ever see ads for Suno on TikTok or Instagram, something like that? And the irony of those ads, Suno is like an AI music generation software. And the irony of it is, like, the ad for Suno is basically like, I made a song for my girlfriend with Suno. Oh, I was having trouble figuring out how to make this song, so I made it with Suno. And they are literally in real time brainwashing us to think, oh, you made a song because you paid for our AI music service. You're an artist now. A music engineer, a studio producer, a production designer, an audio technician, those are all jobs being vanquished. $80,000 a year, $120,000 a year, $250,000 a year jobs. A high-end producer could easily make $400,000 depending on the industry. Trust me. And you lose all of those jobs are gone. If you don't realize that, those jobs are gone. And what we get in its place is shitty AI music that all sounds like the same. And then people with the audacity to think that they have created something. They think that they have created something standing on the ashes of its destruction. And so I know a lot of people have different opinions about Ye, about Kanye, but I can't miss out on the fact that there's this metaphor between him kind of always being this phoenix despite his mental torment, creating really beautiful things, obviously hurting a lot of people along the way as well. I'm not going to pretend that's not a real thing, but something about the visual of this man with all this torment, his set was like the planet Earth. And he said something while he was performing that really struck with me. The earth underneath him was moving around, the set design, it was moving. And he said, make the earth move slower. And it was just a technical note to his production staff, like in real time, kind of wild. Do you guys ever rehearse? You should rehearse. Yay, you should rehearse, okay? Take a little bit of time, run through the show a couple times, work this out on the back end. But this man with all of this torment, rising like a phoenix again to try to perform, maybe make something out of this period of his life, which whatever you think of Ye, his life has been through a lot, you know? Standing on top of this beautiful set, capturing the attention of thousands of people, whatever you want to say, it was an insanely beautiful show. And he says, make the earth move slower. Damn, something about that hit me right in the gut. But of course, we can't do that. Whether you're a billionaire or whether you're getting ready to go to work today, right now, not sure if you'll have a job tomorrow, we cannot make the earth move slower. Our time, our ability to slow this down is gone. It's coming at us like a train. And in the face of that, you can either choose to give up, I guess to proverbially lay on the tracks, I guess. That's one thing you could say. Or you can choose that this is not the existence that we want. These data centers do not have to be built. They do not have to keep this madness. They do not have to keep a pace of this madness. We can fundamentally disprove this theory on its face value. 95% of companies who are trialing AI services right now found either zero or very little benefit to using those services. The entire system, as you well know, and as we've well discussed before, is simply like they're tossing plates up in the air, spending money here, buying things here, spending money there, under the illusion that they're going to change something. And to be very clear, I do not disbelieve that AI can fundamentally change human intelligence, technology, and can fundamentally disrupt I think it is, without a doubt, not going anywhere, and it will change our lives. But we have to, as a clash, as a society, decide. We have to say, will we allow it to go all the way? Humanity, in different times, in different places, has chosen moments like this. They have stared down the barrel of existential doom, and they have chosen another route. And we can do the same. Make the earth move slower. And that's been the show, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful April 4th. Whatever weird thing happened with my phone, that may have been the Matrix. I don't know. We'll see. Regardless, download our weekend shows. So do me a favor. Go download the shows this weekend on Saturday, Sunday. They're pre-recorded shows. We'll see you back live on Monday for the Ignition News. That was weird. That was very weird. I think Moderator Cat started the car and the car connected to Android Auto. That's my best guess. That was my best guess. I know I'm going to lose some people on the Yay thing. I know people really don't like that I like Yay. I know a lot of... I'm sorry. I like Yay. It might have been Yay. I said in the beginning of the show, oh, the phone did it again. I'm shutting it down. I'm shutting this phone down. It's going down.